You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. Steelers Nation Radio.
Steelers Nation, it's The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. Wes Uhler and Matt Williamson finally back stateside with you here for the next 2 hours on your 24/7 home of the black and the gold. And Matt, I think it's safe to say we have just a little bit to talk about today.
Got that right. Yeah. Short, condensed week. I mean, we're going to pack it in this week, and that's kind of what the trip was. Yeah, and it was glorious, to be honest with you. I mean, some of it wears on you in travel, and I'm not good at travel, to be honest. But, man, I just did a show with Rob and Mike Pursuta, and Pursuta said something along the lines of, I am so honored to be a part of this. You know, I'm like, and that's a great way to really look at it.
Great way to put it.
Yeah.
Great way to put it. In fact, I found myself thinking that a lot, too. Like, I think one of the things, there's a lot that we all love about the Steelers.
Yeah.
You kind of grew up on the tail end of the Steel Curtain era, and in that glorious time period. I grew up.
I mean, it was shoved down my throat. You know, where if I was 10 years older, it wouldn't have been.
Exactly right. And I was in high school, freshman, when the Steelers got one for the thumb in Super Bowl 40. I was a senior when Santonio Holmes toe tap in the back of the end zone, Super Bowl 43. So we kind of were both like in the golden eras of it.
Yeah.
And so we know how much the Steelers mean to us, to this city, to
the generations, families, right?
I think the thing that I love about the Steelers is how much they mean to Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Everybody across the world knows Pittsburgh because of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
A lot, right?
And that's special. Like, the Steelers brand is bigger than Pittsburgh's brand. Like, the Yankees aren't bigger than New York. You know, the Celtics aren't bigger than Boston.
Right.
Pittsburgh is big. The Steelers are bigger than Pittsburgh. And there's
funny, I'm just racking my brain. Like, Packers are bigger than Green Bay. Maybe the Canadians are bigger than Montreal. It's hard. There's not many, right?
There's not many of those. The Lakers are not bigger than LA.
Right,
like Hollywood and all that stuff is LA. You know, I was struck by that. Like, because of this football team that we all love so much, the Steelers or the Pittsburgh part of me is known across the world. That's pretty stinking cool. And, man, did we see that show up in Dublin, Ireland for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah. I mean, I had one Uber driver that said, oh, you're with – I mean, it was obvious I was with the Steelers. I had Gary pick me up, and he asked something like, yeah, the Steelers are from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, right? And he's like, what's Pittsburgh known for? I'm like –
football.
Well, the Steelers, football, steel.
Fries on our sandwiches and salads.
Yeah, he's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, but there's so many cool experiences. Yeah.
It really was, and we'll get into some of those as we roll along, obviously. But the Steelers take down the Vikings 24-21 in the NFL's first ever regular season game in Dublin.
Not the last, I have a feeling.
And certainly will not be the last. It was first class the entire way. The atmosphere at Croke Park was unbelievable.
It really was.
And, it ended up, Matt, too, being maybe not for reasons that, as Steelers people and black and gold supporters that we wanted, but ended up being a heck of a football game, an exciting game, too.
More than it should have been down the stretch.
More than it should have been.
Because I really thought, unlike some other games this year, part of me was like, karma's going to get you. Because there were, some of those first 3 games, I'm like, I'm not sure the Steelers are the better team, but they got out of there with a win because they made a big play at the right time, and we've talked that to no end. And I'm sitting there going, the Steelers have pretty much dominated. Other than that first series, from that point on, both sides of the ball, I thought it was very clear who the better team was. And then you're sitting there at the end going, they may lose this. And
a little bit tighter than we wanted.
Yeah. And more so than any other game of the year. Could you imagine the ramifications going into the bye week and our trip home and, I mean, everything about it? I mean, and the importance to the Rooney family, and Mr. Rooney spoke to the team, I guess, on Wednesday. I'm thinking this could be catastrophic, and you're starting to hear skull chants and like, I'm tightening up here more than I have in a long time for a game. And then they took care of business, and they were the better team. And I think there's so many positives, football and life, to take away from this whole experience.
You are absolutely right. And they did, man. It felt like at a time they had a chance to blow Minnesota out in that game.
And I felt like they were for a while.
They certainly were. They were without a doubt for 80% of that game. They had the upper hand. They were
in control.
Better team. They were in control. And you're right. It's a regular season game. It's 1 out of 17. But this one meant a lot more for all those reasons that you just touched on. To have lost that moment, that opportunity would have been huge, would have been catastrophic, would have been something that they would have regretted forever.
Yeah.
But now it flips the other way. you and I both agree, yes, there's going to be plenty more NFL games in Dublin.
Oh, I think so. I can't wait till the Steelers actually get to be there as a road team, so they don't have to sacrifice a home team, because it's going to be a home game.
Absolutely, absolutely. All the details, all the minutia that we'll get in today here as we roll along. 10 years from now, when there's more NFL games in Dublin, they're going to show the first highlights of that one.
Yeah.
20 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, 80 years from now.
Yeah.
When you and I are both long gone, it'll be... Remember that every time there's a game in Dublin, they'll roll that 60-second highlight package of the first time the NFL ever played here. It was the Steelers and the Vikings. Mm-hmm. And you'll see DK Metcalf going 80 yards, and you'll see the TJ Watt interception and the punt.
Sack
Time capsule stuff that is going to last forever.
Yeah, it's funny because we opened the show saying, the eras we both grew up in, what the Steelers mean to us. I'm sure there's a lot of folks in Dublin and Ireland that this was their first exposure. The first game I truly remember was the Steelers beating the Rams in the Super Bowl. Like, I kind of knew what a cornerback was and how interceptions are bad, things like that. I was old enough to really understand a little bit. But now I'm sure these people, and maybe subsequently their kids and grandkids, will remember, I remember when I was exposed to this,
Yes.
Which is cool, which is the whole purpose of all this NFL I mean, this isn't a Steeler thing. That's an NFL expanding their wings.
And they've done it so well, and we see it pay off in London and Germany and Mexico and Brazil and all these different places. And the Sunday Night Madness at Fitzsimons, you had gone back, smartfully so, you had gone back to the hotel at this point. You just wanted to watch some football.
I need to watch games, yeah.
We had kind of all had enough of the chaos, but I had to drop off some equipment there to the DVE morning show. Before I left,
and they were recording Sunday night.
They were recording their Monday morning show on Sunday night.
Yeah.
I met a Irish guy from Cork. His name was Terry. He's a Bengals fan, but he had come to Dublin for the game because it was his first chance to see NFL in his lifetime.
I'm sure they went to any NFL game close.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
And he came up and was just chatting with us briefly. Very nice guy, but he said something that I thought was great. He said, I want to thank you for something, and I got a bone to pick with you for something. And I said, okay. He said, I want to thank you guys for bringing football to this island, to Ireland. What this meant today for people like me who love the NFL and want to see it grow in places like here.
Right. Which you and I had very little to do with, but thank you. You're welcome.
Exactly right, but thank you. He said the bone I have to pick, though, is he said, you know how many Steelers fans you all just created here in Ireland? I'm never going to hear the end of it.
He's a Bengal guy, right. And times are tough for the Bengals. No one's jumping on that ship right now. That's for sure, right.
Hey, sorry, buddy. We do what we can. That we tend to have this effect
force of nature,
on places that we go. But Matt, it was all well that ends well for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and there are a million different things that we want to get into. We'll continue to tell stories as we kind of analyze and do the X's and O's. Does the conversation, though, the 60 minutes on the field there at Croke Park, does it start with Aaron Rodgers and another incredibly efficient, tidy, buttoned-up performance from the signal caller?
Yeah. I mean, a couple bullet points to me that are the headlines are both sides of the coaching staff changed things.
I thought did well.
It did, and positive results, and some things we've kind of called for and brought up in the past. Not that they're listening, but I approve of it, even if it wouldn't have worked. I liked some of the coaching changes they made. They ran the football. I mean, that's a bullet point in itself. Great. Defense continues to really shape into, we got laughed at a little bit after the first couple of weeks. You guys thought this might be a top 5 defense. And I'm like, and that was a hard limb to still be walking out on. And now I'm feeling a little better that this defense has a chance to be really good. But I'm glad you brought up Rodgers first, because you look at his stat line. I see you have the box score open. I don't even care what it was.
18 of 22, 200 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, but he brought so much more. I mean, he's such an elevator. And whatever ingredients you give him, he makes a really good stew, and I think that is really impressive. From the neck up, I think he's so good. And a couple things, yes, it's him versus Flores, sure. But Rodgers even said before the game, I have all the respect in the world for Flores, but he's not playing this game. It's me versus Harrison Smith. And he and Harrison Smith have done battle in the NFC North for a decade. They know each other really, really well. And it's him versus the players. And knowing where to go with the football, and even if you don't know the play calls or know much about the game, it's so obvious that they get out of bad situations pre-snap and at least put themselves in areas to succeed even if their guard can't block that defensive tackle or your tight end can't get open or whatever, even if you don't have a ton of matchups in your favor, I'm at least going to the poker table playing the right odds. You know what I mean? I might not get the right card dealt to me that time, but if I at least don't do dumb stuff and hit on 20 at the blackjack table, you got a better chance to win. You know, you're always going to at least be in the right situation, know where the most dangerous rushers are, where the part in the run play that's most likely to blow you up. And then I haven't got a chance to, my schedule's weird. All of our schedules are weird in travel and, jet lag and all that kind of stuff. So I haven't really studied the rewatch yet. But watching it from the stadium, which is also odd for me, I don't watch games live, it sure seemed like Rodgers was so good pre-snap. Not only his charisma and command and wisdom, but it seemed like he waited really late into the down a lot. The Vikings are doing all their stuff, and he's just kind of holding his water and watching, and I'm going to snap this thing late after you've pretty much shown me your hand, to use another card in analogy. Or sometimes I'm just going to speed it up and not let you do that. You know, like I'm going to be, you do all your stuff. And I made a joke when I did that show with Mike and Rob. It's like Indiana Jones. You know, the swordsman comes out and he's, and then Indy just shoots him. You know, like you can do all your stuff. That's great. But in the end, you've shown me everything, and I'm just going to get myself in the right position. And if my guys make plays, more often than not, the dice are going to come up in my favor, you know?
And his guys made some plays. DK Metcalf, certainly. Kenneth Gainwell, certainly. But I think that's spot on by you. There was how do I want to put this? Almost like, I think it was the most vanilla we've seen Brian Flores' defense in Minnesota since he got, maybe the most neutered we've seen a Brian Flores defense since, he really got that thing humming in Minnesota last year.
Yep.
Because
I think a lot of it's Rodgers.
A lot of his game brain. His game brain, man. And I think that DK Metcalf touchdown was a perfect example. Had DK line up in the slot, got the right matchup for him. Boom, here we go. Quick hitter, get that thing out.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the times that we saw him check into things at the line of scrimmage, it ended up being the more, again, like you said, no one's perfect. It's not always going to work.
Of course not.
It's playing the high odds at the casino or at the blackjack table or at the roulette wheel or whatever it may be. And he just has such savvy for that, obviously, as a guy who has been in the league for 2 decades and is going to walk into the Hall of Fame one day and, has seen a lot of elements. Obviously not Brian Flores in Minnesota, but has seen some elements of that defense throughout his career.
But he's getting more comfortable with his teammates, and I can trust this guy to run this route, and I know he's going to make the right adjustment. And, okay, maybe this guy's going to struggle with this block. Okay, I know that that's where my danger areas are. I'm going to roll away from it or get it out or whatever. His command is off the charts right now.
It's off the charts right now, and you know what really helps that? Is when you're running the football like they were finally.
Yeah.
That gets when you're going over 5 yards a clip for Kenneth Gainwell. When's the last time we could say that about a Steelers running back? When you're going over 5 yards a clip, it makes Aaron Rodgers' ability and his opportunity to do all that line of scrimmage stuff even greater.
Yes.
Because you're not nearly as predictable as an offense. They have to respect every element of that offense. You throw in the explosive plays in the pass game. You throw in a lot more Darnell Washington. I'm sure you want to talk about that more in depth at some point than we've seen. You bring in Anderson. You go big. You go beef package. Extra eligible, extra down lineman, more than we've seen so far. When all those things come together and you've got the ultimate conductor that Aaron Rodgers is at this stage of the game, like he certainly doesn't have the athleticism. Although, how about that run and that fumble that bounced right to Broderick Jones? My goodness.
Like you get a bounce too. Yeah.
But he doesn't have the athleticism and mobility that he used to have. But his game brain is as good as it's ever been. His experience as it's ever been. When all those elements start clicking around him, then he can really show that stuff off because he's not playing with one hand tied behind his back. He's got everything available in the arsenal.
Stick with the poker analogy. I feel like Rodgers hasn't had great cards dealt to him up to this point. He's had to bluff himself through some pots. Like, boy, I squeaked that one out, but I didn't have the best cards at the table, And now all of a sudden, I got dealt an ace. I haven't seen an ace in a long time. I got
face cards.
Yeah, I got a pair dealt to me. Like, okay, I can work with that. I'm starting to understand what I can get out of this team. And before it was and there's still some smoke and mirrors, but that every team's dealing with some of that too. I don't think they protect particularly well. The protection still worries me. I mean, they only threw 3 passes past 10 yards down the line, passed down the field.
That passing chart is telling.
It's crazy, and I think a lot of it's just because they don't trust the protection, I mean, and I also think they've kept a little bit in their back pocket that if people start creeping up and really keying on the quick hitters, they will max protect and throw some bombs. I mean, I don't think they need to throw Russell Wilson moonball after moonball, but I wouldn't mind 2 a game. I mean, 3 passes past 10 yards down the field is crazy.
Crazy. But
again, it's manipulating what you've been dealt.
Absolutely. And again, he does that as well as anybody. And I thought just an outstanding performance for Kenneth Gainwell as well, too.
Oh, man.
He had the 99 yards rushing. Bummer. Just get him one more there to get him to the century mark. But you add in 35 yards on 6 receptions in the pass game as well, too, for, well over 100 yards all purpose for him. We talked a lot about that Jaylen Warren what-if scenario leading up to the game.
I was a little worried.
I was pretty worried.
Very worried, yeah.
I mean, and, we talked about, do you throw Caleb Johnson into the fire? Do you throw him into the deep end and see if he can swim? They didn't have to because Kenneth Gainwell, and, hey, maybe he's a little beat up. Maybe you used him a little bit more than you wanted to. 25 touches in total for Kenneth Gainwell is a lot.
Yeah.
But you got the bye week, rest him up. The timing for that was perfect, and he delivered.
100%. So I think I go out of my way to admit when I'm wrong, but on the pregame show, I'm standing there because we're doing it live with Jerry and Mike, and they asked me, so how do you handle the running back situation? Warren's not going to go. And I think the first words out of my mouth are, well, you can't give Gainwell the whole workload. Flat out wrong. But because I think you can once or maybe one other time, because in this instance, I only need you for 1 day, Kenneth, and you get an extra week. I didn't even think about the bye. You get that whole time to rest your body. You're not used to this workload. You're not built like Jerome. You're not built like Saquon. But I need you for 1 day, and then you can put your feet up for 2 weeks, and then we'll readdress it at the time. Because I thought, as you mentioned, we brought it up at the time. It's like, well, you drafted Caleb Johnson in the 3rd round. Maybe things haven't been perfect at this point. You throw the young kid in the pool, deep end. Either you're swim or you're going to sink, buddy. And they didn't have to even go down that road,
No, they didn't. And they, got a fair contribution, I think, from Caleb Johnson. 6 carries, 22 yards.
Okay, at least he showed up.
He had that really nice 9-yard run at the one point as well, too.
I think they feel better about him today than they did 3 days ago, so that's something.
It's probably the best we've felt about him throughout this entire process. He
Sure.
did what they asked him to do. He was effective in those moments. And again, I think for as much as the conversation with the offense starts with Aaron Rodgers, a lot of other guys deserve credit in that.
Yeah.
I think Washington is one of those. Anderson's one of those. Let's talk about that a little bit more because I don't want to shortchange that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about some beef.
Oh.
Maybe some corned beef.
Oh.
Nice.
Nice.
Irish edition there when we return on the other side and keep this conversation going. As we continue to discuss our trip to Dublin, all things Ireland, and, of course, the most important aspect, a 24-21 win for your Pittsburgh Steelers as they move to 3-1. And, hey, don't look now, but sitting in a pretty good position compared to the rest of the AFC North. We'll discuss that.
Division's in trouble.
We'll discuss that
moment.
a little bit more in hour number 2, but you're right. I mean, the Browns have always been in trouble. I think we knew that. But the Bengals, the Ravens, hanging on by a thread as well. I'm
not digging a grave yet for Baltimore, but those Ohio teams, you can stick a fork in those.
You absolutely can. Like they're a nice corned beef or a nice fish and chips over there. And speaking of the beef, Matt, I tell you what, I thought a big part of the Steelers' success in the run game, the by far best performance in that department that we've seen through the first 4 games of the season. Yeah, the starting 5 offensive line deserves some credit for, I think, having their best performance. But I loved the usage that we saw of Washington. I mean, he played more snaps than DK Metcalf, I believe, correct?
He led all skill position players in snaps.
So,
always quarterback and no lineman.
You take Aaron Rodgers and the offensive line out of the equation.
He was number 1.
I don't think any of us expected that going into Dublin.
No, that's even more extreme than I've called for. But I've been on this soapbox now for about 2 years that this league is full of freaks and athletic marvels, and there's no question. But sometimes there's outliers. He's an outlier. And teams have to hate playing against him. They have to. I mean, there's like D linemen bouncing off him with the ball in his hands and his ability to block. And people have even asked me today, and they've asked me for a year, if Broderick Jones doesn't work out, just make him a left tackle. I'm like, no, but you could. You know what I mean? Like that's an option, which is insanity. You can't do that with any other tight end.
I want him running down the field and punishing people.
Right. I'm just saying, use them as you use them and do it more. Now, I think there's a lot of things at play here. Is first the negative. It sure looked to me, and I haven't rewatched it, but Freiermuth was the culprit on the blocked field goal.
Yes. Yes.
And I think he's in the doghouse right now. I mean, he played 15 snaps. He was near the bottom.
Less than Connor Hayward, correct?
Less than Connor Hayward.
So he was the fourth of the 4 tight ends.
Right.
I don't think any of us thought we'd see that. I don't care how you feel about Pat Freiermuth. I don't think anybody thought we would see that this year.
No. I think Washington's role spiked. Anderson's role spiked. Call him an extra tight end, whatever. So someone's going to suffer. We know that. But I think there's more to that story with Freiermuth, and he's going to have to dig himself out of De Casa Lepero, the house of the dog. And so we'll see where he's at over the bye week. But he needs to bring more to the table, period. And they demoted him. I think that's flat out what happened. So not everything's roses. If someone's going to step up, then someone else loses playing time. But Washington is a total freak, and teams are going to hate playing against him. And you plug him next to Anderson, often on the same side of the line of scrimmage, it's back with my Larry with Pitt example. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't even have to tell it. There's no deception here. We're throwing the fade to number 1 at Pitt, and we're going to run right behind those guys and whoever else there. And if you stop us, great. But you're not. It's going to wear on you.
It absolutely
It's going to wear on you.
And it is one thing when you face those type of big athletic tight ends who are just using the run game, and you got that coming at you. It's a whole other thing when he's going for 7 yards of reception, and you have to respect that element of his game as well, too, because not only can he run through you, he can run past you.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare matchup, like you kind of alluded to. That guy's on the field, and defensive coordinators, it drives them nuts.
I don't know what to do with that.
Matchup they don't want to see. It's
right.
This might be an extreme example, and maybe it's because we were in Europe, but like, do you know Jokic, the basketball player for the Denver Nuggets? And TV's our video producer's wearing a Nuggets hat today.
Coincidentally, yes. So I only really watch NBA playoffs, and
same.
He blows me away.
And he is probably the best basketball player in the world. So again, a little bit of an but
he's so unique.
He can run past you. He can run through you. He's a center, but he can dribble like a point guard. He can step. He can dunk on you like Shaq. He can step out and knock down a 3.
He's the best passing big man I've ever seen.
He is truly one of the unique unicorns in NBA history.
Yes.
Just the athleticism and the shooting ability that he has at his size. Mm-hmm. There's like some, and again, he might be probably
he's
the
an
best
MVP
basketball
guy.
player.
Right?
Oh my gosh, he's an MVP, league
Washington's
MVP, finals MVP. Like I said, one of the true all-time greats. Might be, probably him or Dirk Nowitzki are the best European basketball players ever. But there's some of
he's
that.
A multiple-time MVP, I think. Right?
I believe. Right? I know
Whatever.
he's won at least one, but I think multiple. He's won an NBA championship.
Sure.
He's an all-timer.
But he's an outlier, is your point.
He is an outlier that you don't see somebody like this very often. It's, hey, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow are matchup nightmares.
Sure.
But there's a lot of great quarterbacks and wide receivers around the NFL.
And defense coordinators have dealt with other awesome receivers and awesome quarterbacks.
Lamar and Derrick Henry are matchup nightmares, but there's a lot of great athletic quarterbacks and running backs across the NFL. Mm-hmm. Hurts and Barkley. There's not a lot of guys that can do what Darnell Washington can do.
He's not as valuable as any of the names we've mentioned.
No, absolutely not.
But he's an outlier.
He's an outlier. Yep. That's the word. And I think we're starting to see those ingredients come together for him in the offense.
There's a few dudes, and not that I'm smarter than their staff or anything like that, but I've been lobbying for several weeks and with Washington, frankly, for about 2 years. I don't know how you take like Washington and Herbig off the field. They're too good. Teams say thank you when you take them off the field. And it almost doesn't even, that's not a knock on Highsmith or Freiermuth or Jonnu, but they're a nightmare to play against.
They're inevitable. Something good's going to happen when they're on the field.
If This happened to like Russell Wilson whenever he was a rookie. They had drafted Flynn to be the starter. They drafted this young, short dude out of NC State in the 3rd round. And every time they put something on his plate, Pete Carroll was like, he devoured it. So he put more on his plate, devoured it. Put more on his plate, devoured it. I had to make him a starter. To me, that's like Washington and Herbig. It's like, okay, we saw limited snaps. Now we'll give you 18. Now we'll give you 20. Now you'll be the skill position player that has the most. And every step of the way, you've translated it to. Like, oh, this isn't sustainable. Herbig can't get that many sacks per pass rush attempt. Well, maybe let's see.
Right?
Let's see.
Let's see.
Right.
And he's still doing it as well too. We will talk about. I know. We'll talk about the defense at some point, but you're absolutely right. And then, like Matt, though, when you combine that with Darnell, his skill set, his outlier nature, playing that many snaps, you bring Spencer Anderson into the fold as well too.
Yeah,
that's a nightmare. And I think you and I again, the unique tight end usage and what they have there, and as you said, Anderson's kind of part of that equation when he comes in as the extra big man in a way too.
I mean, he's an eligible receiver, right?
That's the Steelers matchup calling card I think that we've been looking for all season, and we finally saw come to fruition on Sunday.
I thought it would be 13 personnel.
Yes.
That they would be way higher than the league average in 13 personnel, and that's not going away. And that would be their bread and butter, and Washington would be heavily involved in that. And we've talked about this for several weeks now, you and I, that if you look at the best offenses in the league, almost all of them have something that's different than the others. I mean, like last year, the Bills were by far the most sixth offensive line. Ravens with Ricard.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just weird stuff that not only are you super talented with Lamar and Allen and all their stars, but boy, they have something else I also have to prepare for during the week, which sucks. Like I got to spend all this time dealing with what do we do with Darnell Washington? Now, what do we do with him and Anderson on the field together? How do we practice that? We haven't dealt with that. Or teams that use a true fullback. That's hard. It's not the usual week of prep. Like as great as the Burrow-led Bengals are with 3 wide, I at least see that every week. You know what I mean? They're better at it than most teams, but it's not unique. It's not an outlier. And I thought 13 personnel would be their outlier. And then you mix in a wide receiver who's the biggest in the league, too. Like, he's a monster, too, But if this is it, okay, take it and run with it, literally. I mean, I didn't mean it to be that parallel, but take it and run with it, right?
Take it and run with it. Sometimes, sometimes you need a game like that, I think, like, as you kind of alluded to, like putting more on guys' plates, and we're going to give you this, and you handle it well, and then we'll go here. I think there was a natural progression to get to that point.
Yeah.
If you would have tried playing Washington that many snaps in week 1, tried playing Anderson that many snaps in week 1, that's not to say like they should have been doing this the whole time. It takes time to come together, but that to me is about as encouraging as I think pretty much anything we mentioned. And like I said, I think there's a very direct correlation that you can draw between that and the Steelers having their most successful ground game of the season so far.
Yes. Now, Anderson isn't close to an outlier like Washington, but I do want to give him credit, too, because almost every time you see a 6th offensive lineman on the field, it's a tackle. Interior guys aren't used to having all this space over here that I got to, oh, no, there's a Watt or a Garrett. I don't know how to do that. I'm a close quarter type of guy. But Anderson is a very smart, and especially early in his Steeler career, versatile player. I mean, now he's really settled in at guard. He might be Isaac's, successor next year. He played a ton with the first team as the left guard. But if you remember, when he came out of school, he flirted at right tackle. He played a lot of center. Those first two training camps, he played every position but left tackle. So he might be more, when I looked at if they ever go 6 offensive linemen, do you want it to be a Dylan Cook or Calvin Anderson? Okay, I'd prefer it was a 3rd-round pick that has, tackle-type guy. But this dude has played farther away from the ball. So give him credit to be able to do it, because most guards don't get asked to do that.
No, that's very well said by you. He is not he's played every position on the offensive line at some point in his career, but he is not a tackle by trade, and that can be a tall ask for some, but he's taken what they put on his plate, and he has handled it certainly very well. I thought across the board, they kept the lid on everything else. They frustrated that Vikings offense the whole day.
Yeah.
You take that busted coverage out of the equation, and it's hard to find a lot of negative with what the defense did.
1,000%. I thought it was definitely their best performance, and you touched on it, but my favorite part about the defense was they took the fight to them. They were highly aggressive with blitz and, okay, maybe you are going to beat us once in a while with single coverage or whatever, but we're going to come after you. And they got some things that went their way. O'Neal only lasted like 10 or 11 snaps, a really good right tackle. And the poor guy that I've been making fun of all week that was stuck at left tackle, Skull, had to go in, who's bad.
As soon as that happened, you tapped me on the shoulder and you were like, watch this.
Yeah, watch the
TJ
target
and
on this
Herman
guy.
are
Right.
about to feast.
Yeah, and then they did smart things, though, too. Like, the whole planet knew, and Watt gets this all the time, but Skull's going to need help on every pass rush snap against Watt. And O'Neal would have needed plenty. Every right tackle needs some, but now you have to.
But O'Neal's a 2-time Pro Bowler and very good player.
Yeah, and a very good player. So what does the Steelers do? They counter, and they put Queen or a linebacker basically sidecarring or right behind Watt, knowing and blitzing them. Like they didn't do a lot of that in the past, where Watt's going to command a double, so I'm going to throw someone else at your front side, and someone like Queen, I thought they weaponized him really, really well. And I think he's really starting to come into his own.
Best game of the season by far for him.
Flying around the field, attacking quarterbacks, a lot of blitz. And Mike Pursuit had a good point. He thought that maybe they would regret today, in hindsight, not having Ramsey follow Jefferson more. I think that's a good point. And there were times where they left the back end a little exposed due to blitz.
Mm-hmm.
But another guy that I think we have to call out is Elliott.
Great to see him.
And I said this earlier, but Dale and I used to do our list of who are most important Steelers. And if we were to just do the defense, rank them 1 to 15, the guys that are out there a lot. If I did that a month ago or in training camp, Elliott with a lot of dudes ahead of him because they're Watt and Hayward and Ramsey.
Hall of Fame. Yeah.
I mean, like it's hard to put them, they have to be high. But Elliott would have been 7th or 8th, or, with all due respect. It's just a lot of guys are ahead of you.
Sure.
He might be like 3rd or 4th now, because his absence was so felt when he was gone. Communication errors, and they weaponize him too. Like he comes in on that blitz, gets, flipped over, just attacking downhill, attacking the run, putting himself in danger without any, playing fast, aggressive. So his presence was felt in a big way. Herbig's a star in the making.
He's inevitable, man.
Yeah, exactly.
He is Thanos. He is inevitable.
Yes, and now the D-line rotation is where it should be and how it thought it would be. With all respect to Loudermilk, you can't play guys like that as many snaps as he did at the beginning of the season.
How about Keanu Benton?
And
nice to see you, too.
Right.
Doing the Conor McGregor strut down the field a couple times.
That's what I was going to mention is, Harmon's the one that everyone's noticing his ripple effect on the other D linemen. But Benton should send him a fruit basket. I'm getting a lot less doubles. Now I'm upfield. I'm being used a lot more in nickel. I'm not asked to play 80% of the snaps anymore. I'm getting my talents maximized. And you still have Ekwale and Black that are 4th and 5th on the list, but I think their best is yet to come too. You're going to see more of those guys. So the things are really shaping into form, but it starts with their aggression and their play calling and coming after people and, dictating the flow of the game.
You know who else deserves some roses? Is Terrell Austin.
Exactly.
A lot of people spent a lot of time this week reminding everyone how ticked off they were that we let Brian Flores get out of the building,
right,
and you should have kept him over Terrell Austin. And that is not a knock on Brian Flores at all. He is phenomenal.
No, I love him.
But TA had a game plan, and boy, did they execute it. Matt, I don't know if you saw this stat. I like it when every once in a while I can do this. All right, hit you with something that I hope you haven't seen yet.
I might just cheat and be like, oh yeah, I saw that.
You and I were, not far away from each other on the plane, and you were grinding out the numbers and some of the stuff the whole flight home across the Atlantic, like you always do. The Vikings went under center 9 plays.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you see this yet?
I think so, and I know the play action stuff I saw too.
The Vikings went under center 9 plays. The Steelers, had in those 9 plays 3 sacks, 1 throwaway, 3 incomplete passes, 1 completion. The Steelers on those 9 plays under center blitzed on all but 1. So there was a clear cut when they go under center. When they go under center, that's when the Vikings like to run a lot of play action. When they go under center, we are going to blow this thing up. Now, as you mentioned, the Vikings being down their starting left guard and losing their starting right tackle just a dozen plays into the game.
Oh, some things went their way. Right.
Certainly aids the Steelers in that regard. But they had a game plan every time Minnesota went under center, and they blew it up every time Minnesota went under center. And we talked a lot about how, Aaron Rodgers has been playing with some bad hands the first 3 weeks of the season. They forced Carson Wentz and that Minnesota offense into some bad hands all afternoon.
Yeah, I'm glad you went down that road because I saw similar numbers, not exactly what you were talking about, but a O'Connell staple that was obviously scouted by the Steeler defensive staff, and especially with Wentz because he likes to do this stuff too. You could at least have more tendencies with Wentz, who made some plays but also didn't help causes at times too. He'll hold the ball and he likes to take bad sacks. But they want, some of the O'Connell bread and butter stuff, to your point, is play action under center, and they're good at it, and they run it well. And they ran 11 play action dropbacks in this game, which is a big number. That's fifth most in the league last week. And they pressured him on 6 out of the 11. They were really keying on him and sacked him twice on those 11 play action. And on the other 9, he didn't get sacked. He was 4 of 8 for 26 yards. And they averaged minus 5.3 yards per attempt on play action. Whew. Like we've talked about how play action's a cheat code. Everyone, and this is still true, not in this game for the Vikes, but across the league, when you run play action, you almost average like a yard per play more. In this case, they were minus 5.3 when they did
their
play
EPA
action.
was going down when they ran play action.
Right. They went backwards when they ran play action by 5 yards per snap, which is taking away, making you left-handed. We just chopped off your right arm. You know what I mean? This is what you want to do, especially with a quarterback that isn't an elite player at this point. They have quarterback issues.
You make a guy like that play left-handed,
yeah,
you're going to get a lot of sacks, you're going to get a lot of TFLs, you're going to get a lot of turnovers.
Yep.
They got all those things, and they were much needed.
And I know Wentz put up big numbers, and he did make some plays. He made some throws. The Addison 81-yarder skews things a little, of course. And Jefferson was wide open a lot. He's awesome. I
know he has not had the best start to the season, or certainly the one that I think we were all hopeful and wanted him to have, but huge credit to Peyton Wilson on that play.
Massive.
That ends up.
I think he's coming into his own a lot.
That ends up taking an extra minute off the clock. It reminded me of a very similar play. He made a same type of play, Matt. I'm talking like one of those, if you put the cut-ups next to each other, it looks like the same play when he was at NC State against Notre Dame, I think it was, where NC State had a busted coverage, 80 yards down the sideline, this Notre Dame receiver goes streaking, and he caught him inside the 5.
Okay.
And
wide receivers.
Wide receivers.
These aren't like
Darnell
Washington rumbling down the field.
Exactly
right.
He caught this Notre Dame wide receiver. It was the fastest GPS next-gen stats that a linebacker had in the entire of Division I college football that year, his senior year. He hit like 23 miles an hour on the radar, flying.
Right.
Stopped this Notre Dame wide receiver. NC State ended up holding him to a field goal. It was a massive moment in the game. They ended up scoring, but on 4th down, they had to run 4 more plays, another minute off the clock. That was huge.
It was huge. I'm sure people could be like, you guys are making a lot out of this. They end up scoring a minute later. They did, but I think in hindsight, that's probably the difference of, do we kick an onside kick, which never work out in this league anymore, or are we kicking it away? If I go 1 more minute, I'm kicking it away, and I'll take my chances, and you force the Steelers to make a couple first down, or to actually execute, and then you're still in it. When you get to onside kick time, it's just that. That's the last string.
Desperado.
They don't work at all anymore.
No, they don't, and they got to do it twice due to a timeout there. But Roman Wilson with the true hands both times. Real quick on Roman Wilson, because Mike pointed this out in the earlier show he did. He's like, we could be worried about Roman Wilson. I'm sure he's going to come up a lot with this Calvin Austin injury, but the fact that he's out there on Hans' team, they trust him. There's some certain trust factor there.
I'm not saying he's going to step up like a lot of these guys have, and I think that's another theme we could talk about these next 2 weeks are, boy, Omar's done a great job building depth, and a lot of these dudes, like Gainwell, is a perfect example, have really stepped up when asked upon. I don't know if Wilson's next or not, Roman, but the fact that he's out there on Hans' team, they trust him. That's
a good call.
Just store that away.
That's a very good call by you. Maybe something that we'll go back to at some point. And, that would be a good conversation during the bye week next week, because obviously we'll have plenty of time to kind of hit a reset button, if you will, and take a look at some things, from a more 30,000-foot view.
A bunch of people have asked me about, should they go trade for a wide receiver? And Maybe, and we'll see. But we'll talk about it in these next couple days or next week.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And we'll get early next week. We should get a more concrete update on Calvin Austin as well too. When Mike Tomlin meets with the media,
and hopefully get like the Porter back and Warren back, and right, yeah,
absolutely massive. Alex Highsmith not too far either.
Oh, by the way.
So what do you say we do a little Tuesday rewind here on a Wednesday to get us started?
I like it. Sure.
I had 2 observations that I wanted to run by you that I kind of jumped off the page at me last night when I was rewatching the, of course, Steelers 24-21 win over the Minnesota Vikings at Croke Park in Dublin. Both have to do with the offense.
Okay.
First is, man, it felt like they were lining up DK Metcalf in the slot a lot.
They did. Yeah,
I figured you probably had some numbers behind that.
I
something
actually
to back
do.
That up.
Yeah, it was the highest percentage I think of any game in his career.
Wow.
And it was maybe 50%-ish of slot usage for him, which is
significant.
I love it. I think that's a great way. I mean, that's a huge trend around the league is get your best player, better matchups, move him around, especially somebody his size. I mean, it used to be you put Welker in the slot, and those were slot guys, but you don't see many Welker Edelmans anymore. I mean, you'll see big dudes in the slot against smaller Hilton guys. That's why the Hiltons are getting phased out, and you need the Brian Branches and Ramseys that are 200 pounds. So I am all for it. And he had good numbers out of the slot too. Wow, he had this touchdown.
Which hey, that kind of skews maybe the average, if you will.
For sure.
But at the same time, it still counts. I mean,
right.
An 80-yard touchdown is an 80-yard touchdown. I'm with you on that. It's kind of like the Jordan Addison thing when you look at some of the Steelers' numbers for the defense.
Sure.
Like, it is an outlier, but it still happened. It's part of the equation. But that, to me, seems significant. I felt like we saw a decent amount of that week 1 against the Jets, too.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and check on that one. I'd have to go back again.
Yeah. That's just like off the top of my head.
Right.
You know,
not to this level, but yes.
And I think he had some success doing that. That's how they were able to kind of get him away from Sauce in some of those moments where he had some success. But I felt like it really jumped off the page Sunday at Croke Park. And, of course, the 80-yard touchdown definitely has a big impact on that. But that's what I like to see.
But I love the approach.
Don't be static, right?
Yeah.
Like, find where the defense has their weaknesses, where you can make some hay and go attack right there specifically. And I felt like they did that.
Yeah, I mean, he's your best pass catcher without question. I mean, I like the tight ends. You get more from them, and Austin's been fine. But he's the guy you need to feature. He's the guy you need to scheme up and get layup touches, and I think moving him around definitely makes that a lot easier. Some teams won't put their best corner into the slot, just period.
Sure.
I mean, that's obviously a week-to-week thing. They're a heavy zone team. I think they wanted to have him work more against safeties and linebackers, of course, too. Another Metcalf number, though, is it seems like he's breaking out. I mean, he's been putting the ball in the paint, and he had that huge play, obviously. But he still only has 9 targets over the last 2 weeks. I mean, one of the problems with all the offensive numbers is they're just not running enough plays. I mean, this is a trend. I mean, we've talked about a lot of good, but the time of possession stuff still is problematic, and the number of plays being run is still too low compared to what the defense has to withstand. But I would like to see more like 9 targets a game, not 9 targets over 2 games. You know what I mean?
Completely agree. Hopefully we're getting there. Like we talked about yesterday, I think the concerns in pass pro are certainly part of that equation.
They are.
But if you can start to run the ball more effectively like they did in Dublin as well, I think that starts to help you in that regard.
Yeah, I think it does too. And if you're going to keep using Anderson as an extra lineman, maybe that helps your max protection and shots down the field. I mean, I think it's becoming not a tell, but you see Anderson, you see Washington, you're like, here comes a run right at me. But those guys can pass block too. They could definitely help in the pass block game.
And then maybe once those tendencies start to show, here comes the run game, here comes the corned beef package as we labeled it yesterday. Then maybe that's when you can finally start taking some of those deep shots that we've been waiting for as well too, off of play action and things like that. Second thing for you, Matt, is kind of a ecosystem for the offense observation, if you will. I felt like the Steelers, and most successful run game of the season would obviously a direct correlation here, had a lot more success on first and second down than we've seen throughout the first 3 games on offense.
1,000%.
And that led to, I thought, much better on third downs, way fewer 3 and outs for the Steelers offense in this game.
I think there were only 3. The show I did with Mike and Rob mentioned, I think there's only 3 and outs. And so I jotted that down. I think that's 100% true. And they weren't right in a row, like they were just kind of scattered, and it wasn't like they got a cold patch. You're right. It's a great observation because, I'm big on success rate. You know, how successful are you play to play? And their success rate as an offense
probably had to be the best of the season, right?
I think it was best of the season, but it was one of the top 2 or 3 of the week of any offense over the 32 teams. I mean, just getting 4 more on first, you know, half of the down and distance on second, converting on thirds. And you're right, their early down success rate was also like in the 94th percentile in the league. You know what I mean? So staying ahead of the chains and right. You know, a lot of second and fives. I mean, that's very manageable.
When you got Gainwell averaging 5 yards a tote, that really, I think, has a real trickle-down effect for the rest of the offense.
1,000%. I thought those are real good observations and promising ones.
Well, thank you.
Well, how about that? You know, well, there you have it.
You want the Guinness talk first, or you want the wide receiver conversation first?
I think the folks want the Guinness talk.
I think you're right.
Not how yummy they were, but tell me about the tour.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Well, first I got to tell you how awesome the people at Guinness were for hooking me up.
I know the story, but I want everyone else to hear it. Yeah,
and I'm
awesome.
going to try to keep it as not graphic as possible.
Okay.
So I had a Guinness tour scheduled for Friday morning at 10 a.m.
Let's
Dublin
just say
time.
you had a bellyache.
Yes. Woke up Friday feeling fantastic. Went for a walk along the water for like 20, 30 minutes. It was awesome. Sun was shining. Nice breeze. I'm like, this is going to be a great day.
Yes.
I'm going to go have my Guinness tour. Matt and I are going to do an awesome show from Fitzsimons. What could be better? I go back to the hotel. I have a full Irish breakfast at the hotel. It's about 8:30 in the morning at this point. Eggs, sausage, bacon, black pudding, tomatoes, beans, mushrooms, the whole full Irish.
Coach me up on black pudding again.
It's like a beef and
I thought
grain.
Okay.
And it has nothing to do with our concept of pudding.
Right. It's not like banana pudding.
No, it's not.
Right,
and apparently I've been told that if you've never had it before, sometimes it doesn't agree with your stomach.
So maybe that's the culprit.
Spoiler alert. That's where we're going to go here.
You didn't have any like crazy blood sausage or any of those
I didn't do that.
Things.
No, I didn't do that. Just normal sausage and bacon. Nice crispy bacon for those of you that are Lord of the Rings fans out there. So I had a nice walk in the morning. I'm feeling good. I'd gotten a good night's sleep the night before, get a full Irish breakfast. I'm like, this is great. I'm going upstairs. I'm going to shower. Like half an hour. I'm going to Guinness. Like I am big smile on my face. Smiling like a butcher's dog, as Mike Lang would have said. I get out of the shower. I'm getting dressed. I'm like 10 minutes away from ordering my Uber. And I go, oh no. This just and everybody who's ever had food poisoning or something like that knows what I'm talking about. It comes out of nowhere.
It's coming.
Sudden. It's violent.
And you're lucky it wasn't 10 minutes later when you were on the Uber.
Exactly.
Right?
You're right, actually. I never thought about it that way, but I was very fortunate because if it would have came 10, 15 minutes later, I might have been cleaning out some poor Uber driver's car.
This story could have got much worse.
Could have been much worse. I got this sudden, violent wave of nauseousness and queasiness, and I'm like, oh no, I'm going to lose my breakfast.
Yep.
Let's just say I lost my breakfast 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
And at this point, it's like a little bit after 9. My Guinness tour's at 10, and I'm like, there's no way. My hands are like shaking, and like
at that point, I'd just be like, I need to try to get myself ready for the radio show.
I'm like,
I at least got time for that.
Exactly right. That was at the forefront of my mind. Was like, Matt and I are supposed to be on air in 6 hours. I better go back to bed and sleep this off and
get out whatever I need to get out.
Exactly right. Which I did. I went back to bed for about 90 minutes. I drank a Powerade.
Nice.
Went to the little bodega by our hotel, got a Powerade.
That was ussul, by the way.
It was. It was perfect.
Wish their beers were colder. We didn't have that conversation. Every beer I bought there was like warm, but anyway.
Not a lot of refrigeration, not a lot of trash cans around Ireland. It's weird in that regard.
In abundance, yeah.
So I wake up at about noon after my 90-minute nap, and fortunately, I wake up, I feel completely better again. Whatever was in my system, I purged it.
Yeah, okay.
Got a 90-minute nap. I woke up and I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm fine. Thankfully, this is not going to be something that's going to knock me out for the whole day. Like, I don't have to text Matt and our bosses and be like, I got food poisoning. I'm toast.
Right.
It's a little after 12. You and I still have we went on air at 3 or 4, so I still have some time.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I missed my Guinness tour. I was like, but I'm still going. Worst case scenario.
Don't want to miss it.
Worst case scenario, I'll poke around a little bit. I'll go to the gift shop.
Anybody can walk in and just do that.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Correct. And I was like,
at least you'll see
I
it.
probably missed my tour, but at least I'll see it. I'll see a few things. I'll get some stuff at the gift shop. Maybe I'll find a place to have a pint there. It'll be fine.
Buy something at the yeah.
I get there about 12:30ish. I get to the gate. which is awesome. I mean, it's immaculate.
Oh, really?
It's this massive, huge gate with Guinness, St. James's Gate, Dublin, and the harp and all that stuff. It's unbelievable. There's signage everywhere on all the walls. It's like
beautiful and clean, and
it's like a whole compound that is beautiful and clean and looks like my favorite kind of architecture is the kind that looks new and old at the same time.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like it looks hundreds of years old, but it's not like beat up and run down and worn down at the same time either. They take good care of it.
Rusty or
right.
Yeah.
So I get there, I go up to the gate, and again, I don't go into graphic detail, but I kind of tell the lady at the entrance at the ticket counter what happened. I was supposed to have a 10 a.m. tour. I woke up this morning sick, not feeling well. I'm doing much better now. I was just wondering if there's any way I can go in there, poke my head in there, poke around, maybe get something at the gift shop.
What can you do for me? Yeah.
She goes, honey, you're going on the tour. She goes, another one starts in 10 minutes. Give me your ticket, scans it, get in there.
Okay, so you still had your ticket and you paid for it.
Yeah, because it was just like a digital ticket on my phone, Yeah. She scans it. She's like, go get your butt in line. Like, you're not missing this, all right? Which was awesome, by the way.
Which is so cool, right?
Big shout out to that lady. And so I got to do the full tour. I got to do the entire thing, despite being 2.5 hours late. They still let me hop in with the 12:30 group. And Matt, it was Disney World for beer fans.
It sounds like it, yeah.
It was Willy Wonka's chocolate factory for me. It is 7 floors.
That blew me away.
And each floor has a restaurant, a bar, some kind of tasting experience, some kind of interactive exhibit about the history or the brewing process or something like that.
You said one of them was just teaching you how to pour them.
There's
one
like
that.
There's one where you get like how exactly you pour a Guinness on the nitro system, and you get a certificate and all that.
Okay.
There's an area where you can print your face, your selfie, your picture in the foam on top of your Guinness, which I did, which was, and I'm not even one of those people who normally is into frivolous stuff like that. It was very cool.
I'm a little shocked you didn't do a WVU symbol.
Well, I was thinking about it. Right. I was thinking about it. But I was like, can I upload a picture into here possibly by chance? And so different restaurants on each floor. Some that are just like you can walk up to the window and get fish and chips and oysters and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Some that are like nicer sit-down restaurants.
Like you date night.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
They have a breakfast coffee shop nook in there.
Wow.
I was like bummed that I drank a latte in the cab ride on the way over, the Uber ride. I was like, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I would have gotten a coffee. How many people can say they got a coffee at Guinness?
Yeah.
At the Guinness factory.
I mean, you even mentioned like you could just take your laptop and just sit there and work and put in a couple hours, like a Starbucks type of situation.
I was there for 3 hours. I could have easily stayed for another 3.
Yeah, and you weren't even like drinking and hanging. I mean, you had a beer,
I didn't
right?
feel shortchanged, but I definitely could have dug into it a little bit more. I had a beer. I had my stouty, the one with the printed selfie. Yes. But 7 stories of
7 stories,
all the history, all the exhibits, all the restaurants and tasting experiences and everything that you can imagine. And it all ends at the very top of the Guinness factory, which is a 360-foot view of Dublin. It's all glass.
That's on the top floor.
Yes, the circle bar, they call it, I believe is what it's called. And it is the highest point in Dublin because
there's no skyscrapers.
In Europe, their zoning rules or whatever you want to call it are much different than ours.
Yeah.
There's no skyscrapers, there's no massive 80-story buildings like there is, here in Pittsburgh and all across the country. And that was so cool because they have little like graphics on the glass that tell you what you're looking at.
Oh,
so it's like, here's Croke Park,
direction.
and you can see Croke Park.
Okay.
Look in this direction. Here's St. Patrick's Cathedral. Look in this direction. Here's Trinity College.
Gotcha.
Here's the mountains on the backside of Ireland.
Yeah.
It was so cool. I think even if you're somebody that's not a big beer drinker, not a Guinness fan,
you'd still enjoy it.
You would still enjoy it. But like I said, if you are somebody who's a Guinness fan, which you know that I am, it's one of my 2 or 3 favorite beers in the world.
And it was before we went.
And it was before we went there, and it even is more so now. It's probably number 1 now. I mean, come on. If you are somebody who just enjoys beer, enjoys stuff like that the history of, they started brewing it in the 1700s. I told you this. They signed a 9,000-year lease. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, 9,000-year lease
for $40 a month. Pretty good deal. Now Guinness ended up buying that property and they own it now, so that lease is obsolete.
But still, that's hilarious.
But Arthur Guinness signed a 9,000-year lease for $40 a month. That's pretty good business.
That's
right there.
Pretty awesome, right?
So it was the gift shop. I think I spent.
I know you got some good stuff.
I think I spent like €200 in the gift shop. I could have spent €800.
I mean, you wanted everything. I'm sure.
Everything.
Yeah.
I bought a Guinness soccer jersey. I got one of the Guinness pint glasses, and I got Steelers in Dublin 2025 engraved on the glass there. A bunch of different magnets and signage and stuff like that for my fridge and my little man cave area at home. It was, like I said, I spent 3 hours there. I could have spent another 3 hours there. It was such a cool experience. I've gone to a lot of breweries and done a lot of different tours and stuff like that, distilleries, breweries. This one, I think, was the most well done by far. Like I said, it's like a Disney World or Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, however you want to describe it. It was so cool.
Isn't there a Duff amusement park on The Simpsons or something like that, too?
There is.
I think there is.
Yes,
Right,
there is. That's exactly what it was.
That's what it was.
It's like Chocolate World and Hershey, but for beer drinkers. So it was. I can't say enough about it. How great it was. How cool
they were super cool too.
How cool the whole facility was. And then they were like, "Get in there. You're doing this tour. Like, what are you talking about? You paid for it. You have your ticket. Get in there."
I wanted everybody to hear about it. That sounds incredible.
And it was awesome. Steelers fans everywhere.
There were so many people walking around the bar. I mean, the bar where we were recording from, Fitzsimon's, everyone either walked in with a little Jameson bag, most with a Guinness bag, and some obviously with like Steelers Pro Shop bags.
Yes.
But everybody had something that were there almost.
Yes,
they
did.
The town did well in selling stuff that weekend.
My goodness, they were printing money.
Yeah.
They were printing money.
Uber
this past
drivers
week
were making
in Dublin.
money. Oh, yeah.
My goodness.
It was a boom.
Matt, I do want to talk some wide receivers with you here as well, too.
Yeah.
You got a bye week to assess this. I think that's the good news for the Steelers.
You're right.
We will, I assume, get more information on Calvin Austin's status this upcoming Tuesday when Mike Tomlin will have his weekly press conference ahead of the Browns game. What's your kind of vibe, your feel on that right now? Are you willing to give it, because you still have a few weeks till the trade deadline. Are you willing to give it some time for the Roman Wilsons and Scotty Millers of the world? Would you lean on the side of conservative and wait? And I know this is a harder question now when we don't have the exact timetable on Calvin Austin either.
Yeah.
But are you kind of leaning towards the side of aggressive as now is the time to pull the trigger and go get some help?
A lot of layers here, and I don't even know if we have time for all of them. And I don't want to talk about trade names. So we could even talk about that at some other point. But I would be a little more aggressive on the phones trade-wise. I mean, I'd be kicking the tires more. Several reasons. Like Miami, New Orleans, Oakland, or Vegas. I mean, a lot of these teams now that might have thought they were in it, no, they're not now. Like their tune might have changed. I'm just throwing out the name Jacoby Myers. We think we're going to have a good year. We're not trading Jacoby. We're going to win the division, blah, blah. I'm like, well, maybe we'll trade him now. They might, more teams might become sellers now after 4 games in. And it'd be pretty easy to see which ones they are. Also, you're not a seller. You're 3-1. The Ravens are falling apart. The division looks like yours for the taking. Maybe you push a chip in, a future pick in more and say, let's be a little bit aggressive. Let's make a run. And in the trade world, too, like, I don't love the idea of maybe having like 230 million wide receivers, but you could. You could, considering your quarterback situation. And I do think it'd be very useful now, as well as if you were to draft a quarterback in the first round, and we have some quarterback talk coming up this week, too. You'd sure like to walk in with one more receiver if you're that quarterback, too. Side note, I forget who brought this up to me while we were there. I think it was Rob, actually, that we've been counting on a third-round pick in the Russell Wilson move. Well, now that he got benched, I'm not sure that's guaranteed. So draft capital might be not quite as strong. It'll be maybe it's a fourth instead of a third, So just keep that in mind. I've been meaning to say that since we got back. But trades aside, and frankly, I mean, it's a good time too. I mean, you could use it as an excuse with the Austin injury, but it's also bye week. If you could get him here, acclimate him all during the bye, he plays with the team. I mean, it's a good time to add one, as opposed to at the trade deadline, get him ready for Sunday.
Sure.
That's a little tougher. So, I mean, it works out well with your bye, and it correlates with the Austin injury. It wasn't a 1-for-1, but after he got hurt, it was almost Miller replacing him. I mean, the other guys got worked in like they still do, but in 2 tight end sets, it was mostly Miller.
Yes.
And I think he's just highly trustworthy. And as Chris mentioned, too, he can also really run. I think speed's important here, but not that Roman's slow. All four of those guys can fly. But I do think Miller's close to Austin in terms of he can play outside more than Roman can. Frankly, I don't know their thoughts on Roman, but I do think they're way more encouraged than his stat line would show. I would think you work him in a little bit more. I mean, there's some of these games he's playing 8 snaps, 10 snaps. I mean, maybe that goes to 20. But my hunch is it would be Miller. I'm not even saying that's what I would do, but I think that they're just so confident that Miller's been there, done it, get you through a game or two. I mean, if it were the rest of the year, maybe it'd be Roman and say, okay, you sink or swim.
Sink or swim.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think that they definitely, there's a trust factor there with Scotty Miller.
Yes.
Which they would
been on the block,
and they would lean on in the short term. They would lean on, in the situation that transpired at Croke Park.
Yeah, someone goes down, I can plug them right in, and Rodgers trusts them, and
But I think a lot of things, as you outlined correctly, point to if you're going to get aggressive, now's a great time to do it.
Yeah,
you've got the bye week to integrate somebody. You have a incredible opportunity here, Matt. You get the Browns at home.
Mm-hmm.
Coming back from London, Dylan Gabriel could be just his second start ever.
I would assume.
On the road. We know how good that Browns defense is, but even still, that's one that feels like you're
going to be favored in that game.
You're going to be favored, and you should be able to take care of business. And then you got the short week in Cincinnati on Thursday,
which doesn't look as scary as it did when the schedule came out.
As it did when the schedule came out.
I hated the look of that when the schedule came out. I'm like, short week in Cincy. Come on,
man. Now, though, not as daunting. Again, it's not going to be a walk in the park. None of the division games ever are, but it's certainly not as daunting as it was a few weeks or a few months ago. By the middle of October,
5-1,
5-1,
right?
2-0 in the division.
Ravens might be 1-5 at that point.
4-0 in the AFC.
Yeah.
I mean, you would have yourself
2-0 in the division,
in a great spot at that point.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I think one of these picks will go to a wide receiver either on draft day, no matter what. I mean, you probably have an off-season receiver need. I doubt that they just roll back exactly what they have, I think they'll add one sometime between now and opening day 2026.
Totally.
Right. I mean, that doesn't sound far-fetched at all.
No, it doesn't. And so certainly something to monitor, certainly something we'll keep an eye on. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that next week as well, too, as we roll into the bye week.
We can come up with a bunch of names. And Frank, I mean, side note, I do think the trade deadline across the league might be busier than ever. I mean, I don't know if we're going to talk power ranks today or not, but the bottom feeders are bad right now.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Matt, because that's what I wanted to do with you to start hour number 2.
How about that,
Let's do a little look at us.
We're getting good at this.
We are getting good at this. You and I, you and Dale, that Moats and I, that everybody who, did Steelers content, radio, writing, video, whatever, throughout the offseason spent time discussing.
Oh, yeah.
A couple key things. You got to get those sack numbers back up.
Yeah.
You got to improve the
yards per rush.
Yards per rush has to improve. We talked about turnover differential and sack differential and explosive play differential.
Red zone offense.
Another one.
Yep.
And there's been some of those departments, I think, certainly where they have shown growth, shown improvement, taken steps forward.
Yes.
There's been some of those where they've still left to be desired.
Yeah, 100%.
So I wanted to, as we are, it kind of stinks. Like, you can't call it the quarter way into the season anymore, because
but it's pretty close.
But pretty much, since we're basically
1 month in the books.
We got a month in the books. It's the bye week. It's time to maybe take a look at some of those bigger picture things.
And we're into bye week season.
Yes.
That means you're pretty far into things.
Exactly right. And let's start with the one that you always say is, and not just you, I mean, the facts back this up. It's not like it's a personal belief. That
right. It's
turnover differential, the number one indicator of success in the National Football League on a team basis. The Steelers so far +7 through 4 games. That's great.
Humongous. You know why they're 3-1, and okay, you're losing the yardage differential and things like that. Yardage differential is not as important as turnover differential. It just isn't. And that this has been a Steeler theme for a long time now. I mean, no matter who the quarterback is, a lot of changes on defense. They're super opportunistic on that side of the ball. I was on a different podcast earlier, as I'm on a lot. I don't know if you heard the Robert Flores quote from this week. Someone asked him, they were talking about turnovers and things like that. He's like, so I got a young daughter. You'll get a kick out of this. You got a young daughter. And like, if she hugs me for bed and isn't trying to get the football out, she's out. You got to keep punching at the ball no matter what. Like I love
That's
it.
hilarious.
Yeah.
She's not working on ball security. She's crawling up into the bunk.
Right. If she's gonna hug me, she better be at least punching at that football.
That's a good one. That's a real good one by Brian Fuller. That's hilarious. I like that.
So they're +7.
+7, great place to be, great start.
Yeah.
The only game that they haven't been positive in the turnover differential was the one they lost to Seattle, where they were neutral.
There we go, 0. Yeah.
0. I mean,
I'm actually looking at it now too.
Oh wait, no, because the Caleb Johnson one didn't actually count.
It actually doesn't count, but it obviously is the same effect.
I was going to say, if that doesn't
right.
happen, maybe you end up winning that game, but that technically for this exercise doesn't factor into this.
Right.
While the turnover differential is very encouraging, +7 through 4 games, keep that rolling. The explosive play differential, both in the run game and the pass game, still leaving plenty to be desired, Matt.
Yeah.
-8, explosive run, 10 or more yards. That's how we track this. 10 or more yards is an explosive run. Steelers are -8.
But at least they were +3 this past week.
This past week.
First time that's the first explosive thing that went their way.
In the explosive run differential so far, -6 against the Jets, -3 against Seattle, -2 against New England, +3 against Minnesota. So, hey, their most recent performance was their best performance. Yep. Let's continue to see more of that.
I mean, at least you're not living in everyone remembers the Jets game. They were just getting gashed for explosive runs.
Yeah, Fields and Breece Hall.
Right.
Explosive pass differential has been the opposite. The Steelers won it their first game and have lost it their last 3. +3 against the Jets, -6 against Seattle, -2 against New England, -5 last week in the explosive pass differential in Dublin against the Vikings. They are -10 overall on the season. 20 yards or more is an explosive pass play.
One note, and I just happened to hear it on a podcast as I was pulling in, is I think Seattle is #1 in explosive pass rate. I mean, that's your worst game there. I mean, you wouldn't think Smith-Njigba Cup. They don't have like these Randy Moss, Tyreek Hill guys.
Numbers through
September. But they're scheming it up, and they're hitting big plays, and Darnold is not missing downfield.
So, overall, though, this does not paint a pretty
terrible,
picture.
Right? Yeah.
-18 through 4 games combined in the explosive pass and rush differential. -3 against New York, -9 against Seattle, -4 against New England, and -2 against the Vikings.
Just think being -9. I mean, it's hard to win a game when you have 9 fewer explosive plays than your opponent.
Yes.
Yeah,
those are 20-yard passes.
Right. I mean, that's substantial stuff.
That right there on the surface is...
No wonder they lost. They were -9 and explosive. Right.
20-yard gains there that many times that's not gonna paper cut you to death. That's just gonna take you out.
You were even in turnovers that game, and you were -9 in explosive play differential. That's a rough way to live.
That's a rough way to live. It certainly is. That's the one that really needs to get moving in the right direction, because sack differential did not start out well, but has returned to form of where we want it to be.
I hope we're where we're supposed to be.
Yes.
Not that this is the flash in the pan.
And you pointed to this in the offseason, all throughout training camp, and when we would have these type of conversations, that this is the one that you really think that they could get turned around pretty easily.
Yes.
-3.
Now, the one thing, though, and I have brought this up before, I thought Rodgers would take fewer sacks, but he's just not very mobile. You know, right. And
he's getting rid of the ball quick.
And the ball's coming out, so that part's working. But I thought sack avoidance was something I would be more keen on than I am at the moment, But them getting after the quarterback is obviously taking over.
Especially the last 2 weeks, because the first 2 games, Steelers -3 in the sack differential against New York, -1 in that department against the Patriots, but then +1 against Seattle, -3 against New York, -1 against Seattle, but then +5 against the Patriots, +4 against the Vikings, +9 in their last 2 games.
Yeah, now you're talking.
+5 overall. Now we're talking. Now we're cooking.
Talking. Yeah, I mean, if you could keep a similar pace, I don't think you're going to average +4.5 every game, these last 2. But if you're at least in the positive, I think that's something I can definitely live with, and I think they probably should be.
Yes. That's an area where they need to and should make hay.
Yes.
The first couple weeks, Cam Hayward was still knocking off the rust. You didn't have Derek Harmon in those first couple of weeks. Now you've gotten both of those things moving in the right direction. Herbig and TJ Watt playing at a high level. Here comes Keanu Benton as well, too, with his best game as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Highsmith returns.
Right.
Patrick Queen is added in this department as well, too. Man, he trucked Carson Wentz at Croke Park.
So I just started fiddling with Matt's stats for the Browns, and obviously I can't do a lot because they haven't played yet. So I did all Steeler stuff. I think 11 different Steelers have a sack this year.
Woo!
It's like 11 or 12. It's double-digit defenders. That's a ton.
That's impressive.
So they're getting them from all over.
Yeah, and we haven't seen a Ramsey sack yet, I don't think. I bet you he'll get one at some point.
I'm sure Elliott and right.
No, that's
Clark or Peppers or right.
That's
but they're blitzing a lot and they're bringing a lot of different people.
That's encouraging. So this is something that we'll keep an eye on throughout the season. But just to wrap it up, turnover differential Steelers +7. Keep that up. Sack differential +5. It's gotten a lot better the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
Let's keep
feeling good about both those things.
Just feeling real good about both of those things. Explosive runs -8. Explosive pass differential -10. Mm-hmm. Add those up, that's -18. That's got to at least get closer to neutral.
Yeah.
Even if it's not going to be a strength for them, fine, but it can't be that large of a weakness.
I think they have been better in allowing them. I think the tackling's better. They were a really bad tackling team the first 2 weeks, and maybe that's just how the season started. And I would like to see play action, throw a bomb a little bit more. Take 2 shots at least a game.
Yeah.
They haven't taken any shots.
I'm with you on that, and I'm hopeful that that's kind of the final piece of the offense that we're going to see here. Obviously, a lot of things relate to that. Pass pro being probably at the forefront. Maybe that's something that we'll talk to our buddy Bob Labriola about when we return on the other side. Asked and answered, Steelers.com, Steelers Digest. Of course, you all know the great Bob Labriola. Labs, thank you for taking the time here for us on a Thursday. I did want to ask you before we got into some particulars, maybe just a bigger picture question coming off the back of this weekend, the historic game at Croke Park in Dublin, Ireland. Labs, I don't think there's too many people that Matt and I could talk to here on the show that would kind of be better positioned to talk about what having that regular season game in Dublin finally, what winning that first regular season game in Dublin meant to the Pittsburgh Steelers organization and obviously particularly the Rooney family.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin certainly talked about it a little bit. The whole thing, it was Dan Rooney's vision to bring American football to Ireland. In 1997, he did that. It was a preseason game against the Chicago Bears. And, because it was a preseason game, a lot of it, he had to kind of put it together himself. There wasn't a lot of league involvement in it. And so it really was, I think, at that time, a labor of love for him. And then to have it evolve and blossom into the first NFL regular season game ever played there. Their family, that's their homeland. The team is their family business and has been for generations now. And for it to be such a rousing success, for have it to be so well received, certainly in Ireland, by the Irish people, a success by any measure in terms of the production of it, the ticket sales, what it looked like, what it sounded like, all of those things for the people who were in Croke Park or watching it on TV. And then the Steelers won the game. So, I really don't know if I can put it into words, but I'm sure for the family, for the organization, it was huge to be able to deliver a win there, and then, for it to be so well received, I think, it was kind of that cherry on the sundae.
Yeah, well said, Labs. And it was an awesome environment, and I got to be honest, I was sweating the last couple minutes of the game, though. It would have been a whole different feel if Minnesota could have sneaked that one out.
Yeah, but that seems to be
what the league is.
This team's MO. Close games, one-score games. But I've seen some stats talking about how well the Steelers have done in one-score games. So, it's probably an attribute. It certainly didn't do much for my nervous stomach.
Right.
But as I said, it was a win. And let me say this too: I thought that they also looked better than they had in any of the three previous games.
That was actually my next question for you. Do you think that's the best they've played?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's the best team they played too.
True.
Which is a factor. And so, I don't see any negatives that came out of it. I really don't, except for maybe, the injuries to Jalen Ramsey and maybe Calvin Austin.
Yeah, no doubt. That's certainly something that we're going to monitor here post-bye week and hopefully get an update on early next week. It is Bob Labriola with us here on The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Labs, we're through the month of September, and Matt and I were kind of laughing in the opening segment. You can't really do the quarter poll thing anymore now because there's 17 regular season games, but fairly close. What are your impressions of Aaron Rodgers so far? I thought another incredibly efficient performance, effective, buttoned-up performance by him at Croke Park, and exactly what this offense needs while they continue to try and develop an identity and find their footing.
Yeah, I could talk about a lot of different things with respect to Aaron Rodgers, and in previous times you guys and myself have got together. I've sung his praises, and certainly I didn't see anything against the Vikings that changed my mind. But what I thought he really gave the Steelers specifically against that team and against that defense was his ability at the line of scrimmage to, I think the way Mike Tomlin referred to it once is use cadence as a weapon. And not that he was drawing them off sides or anything, but Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator for the Vikings, I guess his signature, his calling card, however you might want to describe it, they do a lot of disguising. They're aggressive. And Harrison Smith, their veteran safety, is kind of Brian Flores' extension on the field. And, he gets the group into the disguises and out of the disguises, in a timely fashion, because you don't want to tip your hand too soon, or you don't want to be too late. And so, you kind of got to thread that needle there in the time frame thing. Well, what I think Aaron Rodgers was doing was he was with some of the, going deep into with the play clock. He was forcing the Vikings to show their hand, I think, and then react to it quickly, recognize it, and then do what needed to be done in terms of, counteracting or combating what he saw at that point. I don't know that there's anybody else who could do that as well. Certainly no one else the Steelers have had since pre-elbow surgery Ben who could handle that kind of assignment. And I think that was a big part of, some of those plays we saw, some of the maybe some of the big plays in terms of yardage, but also with the running game. Getting the whatever, if he's calling blocking assignments or keeping the Steelers at the line of scrimmage long enough to figure out what the Vikings were going to do, and then they could deal with it better than maybe with another quarterback. So that kind of, it doesn't show up on the stat sheet or anything, but that kind of, veteran savvy, veteran presence, it's invaluable. It just is, and he's giving this team something that it hasn't had, and I believe it's something that this team needs, not only for this Vikings game, but now moving forward through the rest of this schedule.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And above the neck, I think he's just been fantastic. And that's brains, but I want to talk about a little bit of brawn. We saw a new wrinkle here with a lot more Darnell Washington and a lot more Spencer Anderson as a sixth offensive lineman. Do you think that beefy set is something that's here to stay? The
corned beef package, Labs, is what Matt and I called it.
If that's what's necessary to run the football, yes. Mm-hmm. Maybe that has something to do with a particular opponent and their particular defense, how you use that, how often you use that. Maybe some wrinkles come off of that based on the particular opponent and the particular defense that opponent uses. But I certainly would be in favor of that if that's what's necessary to get the running game going. And I think that everyone would agree that the Steelers' running game was what it needed to be against the Vikings in that game. It was what it needed to be for the first time this regular season. So, again, I don't know enough about it to, break down any of the it's good with outside zones or inside zones or any of that kind of stuff. If that's what is necessary, fine. And if you can do that, then you maybe create a little bit of an identity or maybe a little bit of a tendency, which then sets up, for you to do something different out of that to surprise that particular defense. For example, Darnell Washington, just because he's out there doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a running play. Mm-hmm. Now, I personally believe that Darnell Washington's role with the Pittsburgh Steelers is not ever going to be strictly a receiving tight end. So if the opponent, for example, seems to have caught on to Darnell Washington and Spencer Anderson are on the field, it's got to be a run. Well, maybe, down the seam, because number 8 can diagnose that quick, get the ball out quick. It will be on target and on time. And, tight ends going down the seam are not necessarily an easy thing for the opposing defense to deal with.
No, they're certainly not. Labs, I wanted to ask you as well, we've seen some attrition, I think, certainly to this Steelers team, particularly on the defensive side of the football early on in the season. At one point, as we've all pointed out, they had a secondary that was entirely made up of guys who weren't on the team last year when Deshaun Elliott and Joey Porter Jr. were both out. Deshaun Elliott returned to action on Sunday in Dublin, made an immediate impact. Matt and I were kind of trying to find the term for him. Like a glue guy almost sounds like you're underselling him. Like
he's more impact than that.
Like he's like a fourth line goon on a hockey team or something, and he has much more impact than that. And I thought that was, perfectly on display Sunday against the Vikings.
Yeah, and the thing with Deshaun Elliott too is, I've heard people compare him to Ryan Clark. Now, the difference between those two players for me is, Ryan Clark may have been that kind of communicator, hub of communication in the secondary, but I think Ryan Clark was on the field more often than not a complimentary guy. Mm-hmm. He was, and this is not meant to be a criticism. He was Troy Polamalu's sidekick. If they were Batman and Robin, Troy was Batman.
Pretty clear who Batman would be. Yeah, right.
Yeah. But Deshaun Elliott, he has some ability to be Batman when it's necessary. Taking the ball away, making big hits, different kinds of things like that. So I don't really know if I can compare him to someone. But let me just say this: he is critical. I will say that, and he is a guy who, if you want to rank the defensive players that you can't afford to lose to injury, just off the top of my head, he's top 5 easy.
Yeah.
Easy top 5.
We had a very similar conversation a day or two ago where I'm not sure in the offseason I would have had him as high as I do now, that's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, because even last year, I didn't know or hadn't seen, and maybe it was strictly because of, the personnel on the field, and Minka was there at the time, and the way they were playing defense or whatever. But I liked Deshaun Elliott a lot right from the beginning, when he came to the Steelers, but I didn't know he was this good, or I didn't see it. well, I don't want to say irreplaceable because, then you're almost, teasing the gods here, the injury gods, and I don't want to do that. But as I said, I'll just stick with what I had said earlier. If you're going to list the guys who you cannot lose to injury on this defense, Deshaun Elliott is easily in the top 5.
So Highsmith has been injured, and I think he's a very, very good player. We know exactly what TJ Watt is. But Herbig blows me away, Labs. I mean, every time he's gotten on the field, it seems like he makes an impact. He's there. And when he plays extended stretches, he's just as potent. I don't know how you keep him off the field, and I don't know how to handle that, but I think he is a real find.
Yeah, and what he has evolved into this season that I didn't think he was last season was not a liability against the run.
Agreed.
Because in Herbig's first couple of seasons, a lot of people, why don't they move him to inside linebacker? Steelers fans love that. Moving Shazier to safety, right. All of that kind of stuff.
Darnell Washington to left tackle.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there's another one. Yep. But I just didn't think, Nick Herbig was built physically for the interior on an NFL defense. Just his physical, size and whatever. But now he is, I don't know that he's any bigger. Maybe he is stronger, but I think he may be just smarter and more experienced, and he knows how to deal with things better. Because, there were times last year and before that where Nick Herbig to me was almost like a pinch runner in baseball. A guy who could be very effective, but in a limited role. And
Specialist.
you put him in the game. It could be a critical situation too. You put him in the game for him to perform his specialty, which was getting after the quarterback and doing it in an athletic way with speed more than power. And it was kind of I hate using these baseball things, but you had Highsmith, who was, and I don't want to pigeonhole him either, but he was more of a power kind of rusher, and Herbig was more the speed kind of rusher. And I don't know, I would imagine a tackle who is dealing with one of them for a good bit of the afternoon, and then the other one coming in, and if the tackle isn't really watching the defensive substitutions or whatever, he might come out of the huddle, get in his stance, look up, oh, God, it's the other guy. And before you know it, the ball snapped, and you're dealing with something you really weren't expecting. So, but I don't think Nick Herbig is that anymore. I'm not saying that he's not quick and fast and athletic off the ball. I don't think he's one-dimensional anymore. And I don't know.
He's got to play a lot. He has to play a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly wouldn't curtail his playing time if Alex Highsmith gets healthy.
It's a nice problem to have, but right.
Yeah, right. More than you can use is better than not enough, I would imagine.
No doubt. And there's a nice maybe leadoff hitter versus cleanup hitter type of analogy there, but no, that makes a lot of sense, and that certainly is a good problem to have. Bob Labriola, kind enough to give us some of his time here on a Thursday. Labs, great stuff. Thank you so much as always, and enjoy the bye week.
Yeah, I was just going to say happy bye week, fellas.
Oh, can't wait. Thanks,
as Mike Tomlin would tell you, don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy, right?
I'm going to Nemacolin with the Mrs. Labs, so I better be on my best behavior.
I got no worries about you, but if you were saying you were going to Morgantown or something, I was gonna try and warn you.
No hooting and
burning couches.
No hooting and hollering for me this weekend, Labs. Just on my best behavior with the Misses. Thanks for the time as always, Bob.
All right, take care.
There he is, Bob Labriola, Steelers historian, Steelers Digest, Steelers.com, asked and answered, part of the Steelers pregame show, regular here on The Drive. He does it all.
You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the Black and Gold. Steelers Nation Radio.